If you're interested in the FIRE movement and you like to hear stories of sort of rags to riches, then I've got a story about a super interesting guy for you today. This guy was 38 years old. He went broke. He was trying to buy real estate. He went too big, too fast, and went in 2008. He lost everything down to zero, zilch, bankrupt. Sheriff knocked on his door, kicked him out of his house. And like a few years later, he just worked the same plan, but did a little smarter, did a little better, and retired at 45. This guy is super interesting. It's me. That's right. I'm going to tell you guys a story about how I went broke at 38. I was buying real estate with no money down back in the day before the financial crisis in 2008. It caught up to me, bit me in the butt. Now I live here on a Caribbean island. I even made a shirt called Island Fire because I get so sick of all these videos everybody makes. All the big like fire movement people that people watch on YouTube. A lot of these YouTubers, they're like on the road to fire. Okay, well, I've been down the road. I crashed and I burned and I got up and I did it again. And I've already done it. I've reached financial independence. I don't call it retire early. I call it recreational employment because I got bored in like 5 days. I moved to this Caribbean island. I started a YouTube channel. I can't remember which one I started first, this one or my other one. I have another YouTube channel called How the number 2 beach. And I make beach videos and I do beach gear reviews. And I'm to the point now, it's not huge. I got a couple thousand subscribers, but companies are sending me free beach gear. And I also sell real estate here and I own real estate back in the States. I own 6 properties in Florida. I bought one in Puerto Rico since I've been here. I live in the Virgin Islands. So if you want to listen to the story of somebody who's already done it, we're going to do that today. Let's do it right now.
Shut up and sit down.
Okay, so maybe Island Fire is not an actual movement, but I get so frustrated with all these YouTubers who are talking about lean fire and barista fire and all these different fire movements. It's like, it's too hard to actually just reach financial independence and retire early. So let's make up some new categories so it's easier for people to find a niche and climb in there and feel warm and cozy. It's like everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets an award, and it's not, I don't think it's helping. I don't care about the fire movement. The fire movement is a marketing term. The retire early is just the sexy part of it. But that's why I call it recreational employment. Because if you're in your 30s or your 40s, you don't want to just go sit on a beach every day. I made a funny meme and I posted it around the internet of my wife up in a tree on this beautiful Caribbean beach. And I said the same thing. I was like, financial independence, recreational employment, because not everybody wants to lay on a beach every day. And I don't know. I looked on one of these Facebook groups that I'm in where I posted it, and it had like 200 and some comments and likes and stuff on this meme that I posted, but it received a lot of hate because a lot of people who haven't achieved financial independence at a young or younger age believe they do want to sit on the beach and just do nothing all day. And the truth is, what you want to do in your 20s and what you want to do in your 40s and your 60s are very different things. That's the whole key to this thing, is to just reach the financial independence. So in fact, when I was in my 20s, I thought I'd wanted to come up with 10 small businesses that each could make $1,000 a month, and then I could make $10,000 a month, and that was $100,000 a year. It was a little bit more sexy back when I was 20. I'm 48 years old now, 49. But it's not that sexy anymore. But I realized in my 30s how difficult it is to come up with one successful business, let alone 10. And so then that idea sort of morphed into, well, what if I buy real estate and I have 10 houses that each make $1,000 a month? And then that's less work than a business. Then I can make my 10 grand a month before I get out of bed, and I don't really even have to go to work and run 10 businesses. I thought I was a genius. This kind of stuff didn't exist all those years ago. Like, we still use the yellow pages. That was a book with people's phone numbers in it that we used, and we had to get the phone off the wall. Okay, enough of that. So I thought I would start buying real estate. So that's what I did. I bought a house, I bought a duplex, and then I lived in half of it, and I rented out the downstairs. And this was like in 2005, and real estate was going crazy. And trust me, you think, oh, I wish I would have started in 2005 because it was so cheap. Well, it wasn't cheap for me in 2005. I was like 30 years old. Roughly, yeah, about 30. And it was hard to come up with the money to buy real estate. It's always hard to come up with the money to buy your first house. So don't make excuses like it was cheaper, it's too expensive now, the market's crazy. Those are just excuses of why you haven't started. So I'm not hearing any of that stuff. So anyway, I bought a duplex. I lived in half of it. I rented out the other half. And then I moved into another house. Ooh, it was like my dream house. It was so beautiful. And it was in the mountains. It was a beautiful river and in between Bozeman and Big Sky, Montana. And then I veered off of my path, and I was like, real estate was, everybody was making all this money with real estate, and HGTV had just hit the scene, and people were flipping houses, and I was like, I need to flip a house next. So I bought a $450,000 house, which at that time was a butt ton of money for anybody, but especially for me. I had 2 mortgages on my 2 houses. I owned a mortgage company. I had employees. I had 2 offices. I had an office in Bozeman. I had an office in Big Sky. I was stretched pretty thin, but this was the days of 100% financing. You didn't need any money. You didn't need to prove that you had any income. You didn't need to prove you had assets. You didn't even need to prove you had a job. We had the ninja loan, no income, no job, no asset loan. So I was buying 100% financing properties from all the money I had made from, like, I had a couple gangbuster years at that time with the mortgage company because everybody was buying houses. I was making good money. I was getting rental off my other properties. So I had about 250 grand saved up at the time, and I just took that 250, boom, sunk every penny of it into my flip house. At the end of 2007, I was just about to flip it and make huge bank. Except we all know what happened at the end of 2007. Market crashed. All my $450,000 house that I put $250,000 into, that I had $700,000 invested. I thought I was going to sell it for $900 and make a huge profit. No, that thing sat on the market, and the value just was going like this. I was shelling out about $7,000 a month for my 100% loan on that thing. And now my mortgage company wasn't making any money, and I still had to pay the mortgage. I owned the building in Big Sky that my office was in. I rented the office in Bozeman that my office was in. I had my mortgage on my house. I had my mortgage on my other rental property. It was like a house of cards, man. And I was refinancing this house to pay the mortgage over here, and I was refinancing this house to pay the mortgage over here. And pretty much everybody left the mortgage company because, like, they weren't making any money. I had to let the people that I were on salary go. It was a disaster. And eventually I just stopped paying everything. And then one day the sheriff came, knocked on my door. He was like, bro, the bank sent me here. Not my fault. You got to go. So sheriff kicked me out. I was essentially homeless and penniless at the age of like 35. In 2008, I would have been 35. So I was like, why am I freezing my balls off here in the snow in Montana? I got no money. I got no house. I don't have anything I got nothing. So I packed up my dog and what would fit in my big old Dodge truck, and I decided to move to the beach. I moved to South Carolina, South Kakalaki. And I moved in with this girl that's a whole nother story, but so I moved to South Carolina, and I thought, well, I'll just get a job and get my feet back under me and try to figure out how this is going to work. So I found out, like, owning your own mortgage company for a long time doesn't give you a lot of experience to be a bartender or a waiter or work in a retail store. I just wanted a nice, easy little job at the beach. I didn't want to work in a bank or do anything like that. And I had a really hard time finding a job. So then I was like, well, I used to work in sales back in the day. My first jobs out of college were sales jobs. So I got a job. This was sort of the advantage of not knowing anybody in South Carolina where I lived, because this sounds horrible, but I felt like maybe it was a little below where I should be working. I had a job where I worked for this company, and they'd give me a stack of newspapers, and every morning I'd go stand out in front of a Walmart or a grocery store. They would assign me a location, and I'd give people a newspaper, and I'd say, "Good morning, sir. Here's a copy of the Post and Courier newspaper of Charleston, South Carolina." And they'd be like, "What's this for?" I'd be like, "It's a free copy of today's newspaper." They'd be like, "Okay, thank you." Oh, and I'd be like, "Oh, so you do like to read the newspaper?" They're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, let me tell you, if you would just get a subscription to the paper, let me show you how much it would cost." And I sold newspaper subscriptions. And within like 3 months, I was the #1 newspaper subscription salesman in all of Charleston, South Carolina. So, but it still didn't pay that much. It made like $20 every time I got a subscription. So it was hard standing out in front of a grocery store in the sun all day handing out free newspapers. So building back from going broke took a while. Like, I didn't just jump right in. That's why I don't say, like, after I went broke, I retired in 5 years, because that's not really how it worked. There was a couple of years in a building phase here. So I still wasn't saving any money with that newspaper job. I'll skip ahead a little bit. About a year after that, I met a girl in Charleston, and we ended up moving to Panama City Beach. My landlord was kicking me out of my house. I was in Folly Beach, which is like a super expensive place to live. And me and the girl that I'd moved there for had split up, and I couldn't really afford the house I was living in. So I had to move out of there. And I was like, look, I moved to the beach because I wanted to live at the beach. I don't want to live 20 miles inland in some dumpy apartment. So I was dating a new girl at the time, and we decided, I was like, I'm going to move to Florida. I was like, do you want to go with me? And she was like, yeah, let's go to Florida. So me and her started in Pensacola and just driving down the panhandle trying to find a place that we wanted to live. We hit Panama City Beach. We liked it. We ended up buying a little house, like 800 square foot house there. And this is one of the keys to my success, was that we bought the smallest little house that we could afford, not the biggest house that the bank would qualify us for, because, oh, by the way, my credit score was still like a negative 500 because of my 3 foreclosures. And my girlfriend at the time, she's not a US citizen. She's here on a work visa from Spain. So neither one of us could really qualify for a loan. We ended up buying a house from a flipper that did a contract for deed for us. So basically he carried the loan. So we put the money down on the house, and then we had 2 years to try to figure out how to get a loan on the house. Before my wife moved to Charleston, she had lived in Nigeria for a couple of years. Not with a prince. That wasn't how it worked. It's not the guy that sends you the emails. She's a school teacher. She teaches Spanish. She's from Spain. I think I mentioned that. So she had saved, when she lived in Nigeria, the school that she worked for paid all of her expenses. So she was able to save money living there with no housing expense or anything else. So we took her money that she'd saved up, because I had no money, no credit, and we used her money, put 20% down on our little house we bought from the flipper, and our mortgage payment was only like $600 a month. And I had a new sales job at the time. I was making about 60 grand, and she was making like 50 grand as a teacher. So we weren't making huge money, but our little tiny house with our little tiny payment allowed us to live on her salary and save all of my salary. So we were saving $60,000 a year. So at the end of our first year, we bought another house. We bought a duplex. And then when we bought the duplex, one side of the duplex paid the mortgage of the duplex, and the other side of the duplex paid the mortgage on our little house that we lived in. So now we were living for free, and now we could save even faster. See how this isn't rocket science how to do this. So we just did this again and again every year. Every year we bought another house. Every year the houses got a little bit bigger because we could save a little bit more money, and it just got a little easier the more houses we had. Then after the next house, the duplex was paying for both houses. So then the next house that we bought that made a little bit of profit, now we got more money coming in than just her salary and my salary. Now we got profit coming in. And then the next house, we got a little bit more profit coming in. And by the 5th house, we were actually able to pay cash for the 5th house that we bought. So just a little bit at a time. And after 5 houses, and we paid cash for it, with the income that we were making off of those 5 houses, it was enough to more than cover all of our mortgages, all of our bills, all of our living expenses. We had hit financial independence, and we were on our way to Easy Street, you might call it. But then after a little while of being on Easy Street, we just felt like our life was too comfortable, and we felt like we'd kind of got into a routine and things weren't sexy and awesome. And we were like, our house was right across the street from the beach, and we weren't going to the beach every day. It's kind of like when I was in Montana and I was like, why am I freezing my butt off in the snow? And I haven't been skiing in 2 years, and I haven't gone hunting in a year, and I hadn't done these things. And so now we're in Florida, and we used to walk across the street when we just had our little house, and we were broke, and we didn't have any other real estate, and we didn't have any money or credit or anything except our love for each other and our little house. We used to walk across the street and watch the sunset on the beach every night with a glass of wine. So we decided it was time to shake things up a little bit. And so that's when we moved here to the Virgin Islands, and we found out we shook it up. It's difficult living here. So that's a story for another day. I just wanted to tell you guys the story of how I went broke at 38, and after I actually started buying real estate again, within 5 years, I reached financial independence. And it's not sexy, like investing money. If you want to do it in the stock market or with real estate, it's not sexy. It's not get rich overnight. 5 years is a long time when you're trudging along trying to save we saved every penny just to buy the next house. But we did it with making that kind of income. You can do it too. If this was interesting, I hope you'll like the video. This is a little bit more about me than about just how to buy real estate. So we'll see if you guys like this video and learn a little bit more about my story. And if you did like it, then go watch this video right here. I'll talk more about how to buy real estate and less about me. But thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.